Welcome to episode 7 of my series on hints and tips for new RV owners. And today I want to talk just a little bit about security in your RV, whether it's a camper trailer, a motorized unit, or whatever. And I'm going to address two specific types of threats you could potentially encounter, the four-legged type and the two-legged type. And even before we get into specifics, I want to point out that anybody or any large animal that seriously wants into your unit can get into your unit. I could break into your house in about 15 or 20 seconds if I really wanted to. But as I used to tell people when I was a police officer, you don't have to be bomb-proof. You don't have to be Fort Knox. You have to be slightly harder to get into than the one just down the street. So if your house is slightly more inconvenient to a burglar than your neighbors, you're probably not going to get bothered because they know that if yours is kind of inconvenient, somebody down the street didn't bother to lock their door or left a window open. Same way in a campground. Anybody that really wants into your camper could get in, bust a window out, pry a door open in with almost effortlessly. But if you're relatively secure, they're not going to waste the time on yours when somebody else's is easier to get into. I'll start before we start showing you specifics on human security with the animals though. Bears, raccoons, squirrels, ground squirrels, all that kind of stuff can potentially be an issue. If you leave your door open, you're liable to come home and find out a raccoon or a ground squirrel's eating all the food out of your cabinet. If you leave good smelling stuff and your windows are open, a bear could come through your window, they could come through your door, and honestly, they could tear right through the side of your unit if they were really so inclined. I read an article a few months back about a bear that actually tore through the wall of a house to get something they wanted inside. So it's not possible to 100% exclude them. So one of the best things to do for animals is don't keep anything smelly in your camper. Keep your food in a bear container or something like that. Definitely don't keep anything in a soft-sided unit like a pop-up. At least have it in a hard-sided camper that is going to be a little bit more of a challenge for them to get into. So let's look at a couple things you can do in terms of keeping bad people out. We'll look at those here next. When it comes to security, camper doors are about as wimpy as you can get. There's just this little lip here, and this little striker plate here is really all that catches the latch or the deadbolt on the door. And when I first got this, there was barely any contact. Even the deadbolt just barely passed that striker plate. I made it slightly more secure by putting a little bigger screws in and putting a couple washers underneath it that just moved it out just enough that there's a little bit more contact now with the bolt or the striker or the latch. Still, anybody with a little pry bar or a big screwdriver could stick it in here and pry that open in a heartbeat. Also, something I learned when I had my unit in for repair a while back was that the key to the door of almost every camper is essentially the same key. I had offered to leave my key with the repair place, and they told me, nah, we don't need it. We got a key that fits all the doors on almost all the models made. Now, they did call me back a few days later and asked me to drop a key by because apparently my deadbolt is a different key than most of them. Same key works in both, but apparently it's just enough different that not every universal key would get in. But pretty much, if somebody has a key to a camper, they probably have a key to your camper. So if you really wanted to be secure, you could always add a padlock hasp or something additional, or get your lock changed. But again, the main thing is just to be as inconvenient as you can for somebody that would have ill intent. I would also make a point, if you leave, lock both the latch that keeps it from opening the paddle there and also the deadbolt. Do them both. It just makes it that much more slightly inconvenient. That might be enough to discourage somebody that help keep a almost honest person honest. Something else that I make a habit of just for security purposes is I just simply don't leave anything of any real high value inside the camper when I'm gone. Computer, firearms, anything like that, I will lock in my tow vehicle because it's going to be more secure. It's just harder to get into and just that much less likely somebody's going to cause a problem. Okay, so what keeps somebody from stealing your whole unit? Well, not a lot, but a couple things you can do to, if they're going to tow it away, they're going to have to be able to hook up the trailer hitch. So you can put just a simple padlock on the tongue lock there, and that makes it to where they can't actually hook it up. Even more secure is to get one of these locks that actually goes in the ball and locks it to where you can't put it on another deal. The problem with this inexpensive one I've got is that even when it's latched down, it'll just roll right off. So I actually combine the two. I will put my padlock through there. Lock the padlock, and then actually put this ball lock up through the padlock and slide it into place as tight as I can get it. And that way there's no way that anybody can get that out of there, and that means there's no way they can hook up even a smaller ball, because you could use a smaller ball than what that hitch is made for, get it on there temporarily to tow it off to someplace you could work farther on it. So that's just a way to make it not impossible. Somebody could bring in a power saw and cut that stuff off or something, but at least it reduces the odds quite a bit that somebody could actually get in and steal your whole unit. And the last thing I'd say would be just keep your windows closed when you're not there. It's tempting to leave the windows open for the fresh air coming through in a lot of situations, but it just makes it that much easier for an animal or a person with ill intent to get in. Even if they've got a screen, the screens are incredibly wimpy, and a small, weak person could very easily just push right through the screen and get in. And likewise, an animal, especially if you happen to be near a tree limb or something where a squirrel could jump over there, could get right through that screen and get in and cause you lots of trouble. The good news is, in most campgrounds, almost anybody you're going to run into is there for the same reasons you are. They want to enjoy the outdoors, enjoy some peace and quiet, and they're not going to mess with your stuff. That's not to say there's not people that will take advantage of a remote situation, but it's not something to be paranoid about. Just practice some basic security stuff, and you and your stuff should be just fine. Happy travels. Thanks for watching, and feel free to give a like and subscribe down below. Appreciate it.